welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling a recent Q&A session with Calogero Grifasi. Think of this as your shortcut, basically, to understanding his unique take on hypnosis, his training stuff, and, his views on some pretty fascinating esoteric ideas.
Right, and this is all drawn from a recent YouTube live stream he did.
Exactly. So our mission for you listening in is really to pull out the key insights from this, well, pretty lengthy Q&A.
Yeah, we're giving you the highlights, the core stuff, so you can grasp Grifasi's approach without needing to watch the whole video yourself.
Right. Now, a lot of people might know Grifasi from his different channels online. What kind of jumped out at me was him mentioning a more structured organization now. He's dividing things into sessions, investigations, and this dedicated training department.
Okay.
And he specifically pointed out the Academy channel. It sounds like that's the main hub for learning his methods, covering the practical and the theory behind it.
That focus on structured training, it feels like a significant development, doesn't it? Like a move towards a more formal way to learn and use his techniques.
Totally. And for you, the listener, if you're maybe curious about, developing skills in this whole area, it's definitely something worth noting.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's dive into these training options he talked about. He laid out 2 pathways in English. First up, there's an online video course. It's priced at $690.
Right, self-paced, accessible, whenever.
Exactly. But, and this is key, it's still being developed, so no firm release date right now, kind of a watch this space thing.
Gotcha. But there is something more immediate, right, for people who want interaction.
Yes. He's also setting up an online training course using Zoom. This one certifies you as a hypnosis operator or HPN operator using his specific method.
And this one's taught by Grifasi himself.
Directly by him, yeah, which is pretty significant.
Definitely. So how do people get involved with that one?
Simple enough. If that live Zoom course sounds interesting, you just need to send an email. It's info@calogero-grifasi.com. Just express your interest and they'll send you all the details.
Okay. And did he say how many people they have or need?
Yeah, he mentioned they've got about 5 people confirmed already, and they're looking for a small group to get started pretty soon.
So if this is something you're thinking about, now's probably the time to reach out.
Exactly. Seems like they want to get it rolling.
Now, the Q&A covered a lot more than just training, obviously. One listener asked about Earth's energetic frequency shifts.
Right, that came up. And interestingly, Grifasi actually said he wasn't familiar with the specific theory the person mentioned.
Oh.
Yeah, he asked for more details before he could really give an answer.
Yeah.
Which, suggests he sticks to what he knows rather than just speculating.
That sounds like a pretty grounded approach, actually.
Yeah, I thought so too. But, okay, let's get to the real core of his method. Someone asked, how does it differ from other hypnosis techniques out there?
And this is where it gets really interesting, I think.
Totally. The fundamental principle, as he explained it, is that the client's own power is the only source for solving problems within that hypnotic state.
Wow. Okay. That's a strong stance. The client's power exclusively.
Exclusively. His whole idea is that individuals, we are power. And maybe surprisingly, we often create our own problems, sometimes because of manipulation, as he puts it.
Manipulation, like external influences.
Yeah, he talked about this concept of esoteric interference, basically non-physical entities or influences making people believe certain things.
Okay.
And because we are power, our beliefs create reality, right?
Yeah.
So if we're manipulated into believing negative things, we actually use our own power to create those negative outcomes.
Ah, I see. So the entities leverage our power against us.
That's the idea. So the goal of his method is for the client, and importantly, their subconscious, to really understand this mechanism.
They see how it works.
Exactly. And then to rediscover their own power, to solve the problems, to change the decisions they made under that influence, maybe revoke permissions they didn't even know they gave.
And basically rebalance themselves from the inside out.
Precisely. And here's the really crucial part he stressed. Absolutely no external help is used to solve the client's problems.
No angels, no spirit guides, none of that.
His reasoning is that relying on outside help creates dependence and can actually open the door for more interference. It has to be the client and only the client resolving their own issues in that hypnotic space.
That's quite a statement on self-reliance in this kind of work. It really puts the onus and the power entirely on the individual.
It really does. Now, another listener asked something practical. Can a session help you discover your life purpose?
Ah, the big question.
Right. And Grifasi was clear. It's not like a magic button you press for answers.
Okay, that makes sense.
But He said it can provide really valuable clues, ideas, maybe release emotional blocks that are, clouding your view of your purpose.
So less about being told your purpose, more about clearing the deck so you can recognize it yourself.
Exactly. He really emphasized the healing aspect, releasing stuff that gets in the way of clarity.
That feels like a more grounded way to approach it. The healing is key.
Definitely. Okay, let's loop back to those energetic frequencies for a moment. The listener who asked about Earth's frequency shifting, they followed up suggesting that maybe increasing personal frequency helps us perceive the energetic world better.
Right. But Grifasi had a different take on the current situation, didn't he?
He did. Quite different, actually. He believes that for the majority of people right now, the world's frequency is actually decreasing.
Decreasing? Why?
Well, he listed a few factors. Things like chemical food, negative mass media constantly pumping out fear, economic anxiety, safety concerns. Basically, a lot of low vibration input from the system.
That's a pretty bleak assessment for the majority.
It is. But then he contrasted that with a minority, a smaller group of people, who are actively increasing their frequency.
How are they doing that?
By consciously disconnecting from what he calls the systems game. Basically, choosing to live with a different perspective, detaching from all that negative info and energy.
So it's like two different paths are available, one influenced by the mainstream negativity, and another cultivated through conscious choice and detachment.
That's exactly how it sounded. Like parallel energetic realities almost.
Interesting.
Which kind of leads nicely into the next question someone asked. Can changing your timeline actually turn your life around?
Timelines. Always a fascinating topic.
Totally. And Grifasi shared this really compelling personal story from when he was a teenager.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he said he was going through a really rough patch, lots of family problems weighing him down. And one morning, just walking to school, he made a conscious, firm decision. I'm done with this. I'm not carrying this worry and negativity anymore.
Just like that, a decision.
Just a decision. But he said the effect was immediate, like a physical feeling of lightness, a tangible shift towards feeling better right there and then.
Wow. That immediate.
That's what he described. He really emphasized that the first, most crucial step is making that internal decision to be better. Then, of course, it's about following through with conscious choices, surrounding yourself with positive influences, that kind of thing. It wasn't magic, but the decision was the catalyst.
That really speaks to the power of intention, doesn't it? That internal shift being the starting point for external change.
Absolutely. It was a powerful anecdote.
So shifting gears a bit, during a session, how do you tell the difference between, say, an emotional imprint versus a mental construct or an energetic blockage? That sounds complex.
Yeah, it does. Someone asked exactly that. Grifasi offered a simplified model to help understand it.
Okay.
He talked about the energetic body being composed of like three main aspects, mental, emotional, and sexual bodies, each vibrating at different frequencies. But he stressed it's a model, a way to categorize, not literal separate bodies.
Right, a framework for understanding. So how do frequencies play into that?
Well, he gave examples. Like in the mental body, a low frequency might show up as pessimism, while a high frequency is optimism.
Okay.
In the emotional body, maybe sadness versus happiness. And in the sexual body, repulsion versus attraction. You get the idea.
Yeah, polarities based on frequency.
Exactly. But the key point wasn't just labeling them. It was that these frequencies aren't fixed. By understanding this process, maybe through a session, people can learn to consciously shift energy from the negative pole to the positive pole within themselves.
So it's about learning to manage your own internal energy states, to rebalance yourself and maybe even affect your surroundings.
That's the idea, moving energy to find balance.
That makes sense. We even had a listener share something related, right, about a friend.
Oh, yeah. That was interesting. A listener mentioned a friend who felt really disturbed by what they perceived as aliens.
Okay.
And apparently the friend found relief simply by firmly, internally, asserting their own power and sovereignty, just claiming their space.
Wow. So that directly echoes Grifasi's core principle about individual power being the key.
Right. A real-world example of just asserting your own power, making a difference against perceived interference.
That's pretty compelling.
It really is. So for anyone listening who wants to, explore this more, maybe book a session or just get info.
The email is info@calogero-grifasi.com. Right.
That's the one. info@calogero-grifasi.com. And they also mentioned the website, which sounds like a great resource.
Oh, it's on the website.
Lots of stuff. Details on the method, the training, investigations they do, even comparisons to other methods like Dolores Cannon's. There's a susceptibility test.
Oh, to see how easily you might go into hypnosis.
Yeah, exactly. Interviews, booking options too, though. You need an access code for booking, which you get via email first.
And it's multilingual, which is helpful.
Right. Multiple languages available. So lots to dig into there.
Okay, let's talk about belief. How important is believing in all this for regressive hypnosis to actually work?
That's a fundamental question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Grifasi was very direct about it. He said beliefs are incredibly powerful.
In what way?
He stated that basically whatever you truly believe, you create, like instantaneously in other dimensions. Because again, that core idea, you are power.
Instant creation in other dimensions,
Right.
but not here.
Exactly. He made that distinction. Manifesting change in our physical dimension takes time. It's denser, slower.
So where does hypnosis fit in?
He sees hypnosis as an accelerator. Within that hypnotic state, the creation, the shifting of beliefs can be instantaneous. You can change perspectives, make new subconscious decisions really rapidly.
So it bypasses the time lag of the physical world in a way.
That seems to be the idea.
Right.
Reshaping your internal reality quickly. But he also gave some advice about beliefs.
Oh.
Yeah, he cautioned against getting too rigidly attached to any specific belief. He sees them more as tools for creation in the present moment.
Tools, not absolute truths.
Right.
Like perspectives you can use but shouldn't cling to because there are infinite perspectives available. That's a useful way to think about it. Avoid dogma.
Definitely. Now, another listener asked for clarification on the difference between the astral and etheric dimensions.
Ah, definitions. Those can get tricky.
Yeah, Grifasi admitted their team doesn't get super caught up in precise definitions, but he shared his working understanding.
Which is?
For him, the astral dimension is essentially the non-physical world, where a lot of the work happens dealing with problems, entities, that sort of thing. The invisible realm.
Okay, the main stage for the hypnotic work. And the etheric.
He described the etheric as the layer closest to the physical. It's where the effects on the physical world are felt. He used electromagnetic waves as an analogy. They exist in the ether, unseen, but enable things like internet, TV.
So the etheric is like the bridge, the transition zone between the non-physical work and its physical manifestation.
Exactly. He said it's mainly a way to simplify understanding that transition from non-physical to physical.
Got it. Makes sense as a working model.
Yeah. Then there's a really practical question. During a session, how do you know if a memory that comes up is a real past life memory or just like a symbolic story the mind creates?
That's a great question. Does authenticity matter?
Well, according to Grifasi, not necessarily in the way you might think. He said he doesn't really focus on verifying the historical accuracy of every single memory.
Oh, so what is important then?
The key thing for him is the information's relevance to the client's current problem. Does it guide them towards the root cause? Does it help resolve the issue?
So whether it's literally true or symbolically true, if it serves the purpose of healing and understanding, that's what counts.
Exactly. The information, whatever its nature, acts as a guide for the client's journey towards resolution.
That shifts the focus from proving history to achieving therapeutic results. That's quite pragmatic.
It really is. Moving on, someone asked about family trees. Like, how does changing yourself affect your whole family lineage?
Ooh, intergenerational effects. Interesting.
Yeah. The understanding shared was that, yes, changes you make individually do influence the family tree on an energetic, unseen level.
So there's a ripple effect.
Seems so. It might not be obvious right away in this lifetime. Maybe it plays out over time or in other lifetimes because of that interconnectedness.
But does that mean you should try to actively change your family members?
No, definitely not. Both Grifasi and Claudia, who was co-hosting the Q&A, were quite clear on that. The advice was firmly, focus on your own growth.
Right.
And if necessary for your well-being, maintain a healthy distance. Let others potentially learn or evolve by your example, but don't try to force it on them.
Personal responsibility again.
Right.
Makes sense. They also sidestepped a question about the meaning of having a family, right?
Yeah, they gently guided away from that, saying it was a bit outside the scope of that particular discussion.
Okay. So staying focused on personal change. Someone asked, very directly, how do you get more power over your own life? And can a session help with that?
Right. And Grifasi's answer again pointed inwards. The goal isn't to get power or answers from the session externally.
Okay, so what is the goal?
It's to develop the internal understanding to answer those questions yourself. He sees sessions, and maybe the basic training, as ways to grasp the fundamental energetic concepts.
Learning the rules of the game, so to speak.
Exactly. And once you have that understanding, you become more self-sufficient. You can navigate your life and find your own answers, drawing on your own power.
So it loops back to empowerment through understanding, not through being given something.
Precisely. It's about unlocking what's already there.
What about manipulation from, say, politicians, or even the alien manipulation idea that came up? How does this approach address that?
Grifasi's take was pretty consistent. The key to becoming unmanipulable, regardless of the source, politicians, aliens, media, whatever, is cultivating that inner awareness.
Inner awareness, meaning?
Meaning, stop looking outside yourself for answers or validation. Don't rely on politicians or external figures to tell you what's true or what to do. Real freedom, he argued, comes from your own inner consciousness and self-understanding.
So, again, the antidote is internal strength and self-knowledge. Makes you less susceptible to external narratives.
That's the core message. Then Claudia offered a really good summary of what the sessions are ultimately about.
What did she highlight?
She said their main value is accelerating personal evolution and bringing significant emotional healing. And she emphasized that our vulnerabilities, the things that make us susceptible, are within us.
So introspection is crucial.
Absolutely. Working with the subconscious through hypnosis is the way to address those internal vulnerabilities directly.
Makes sense. Focus on the internal root causes.
Exactly. The question also came up about whether we maybe choose our life challenges before we're born, for growth.
The pre-birth contract idea.
Right. Grifasi acknowledged that as a possibility, like maybe the soul opts for hard mode to test itself and learn faster.
But it's not the only explanation for difficulties.
No, he balanced that by saying difficulties can also definitely arise from external manipulation, as they discussed. The key difference he suggested is your feeling of agency. Are you in control of the difficult situation, even if it's hard, or do you feel controlled by it?
So a nuanced view. Could be self-chosen for growth, could be manipulation, and the feeling of control is a potential indicator.
That seemed to be the gist of it.
Okay. And just to reiterate, for anyone interested, especially in that upcoming English training.
Right, the Zoom course for HPN operators. The email again is info@calogero-grifasi.com. Reach out soon if you're keen, as they're trying to set a date.
Good reminder. Now, one last crucial area, risks and limitations. Is regressive hypnosis totally safe? Are there things it can't do?
Yeah, very important question. Grifasi said the risks are generally low.
But not zero.
Not zero. He said issues could arise if, say, an inexperienced operator doesn't handle intense emotions well, or if unexpected things come up, like spontaneous channeling, and they don't know how to manage it.
So the operator's experience matters.
Hugely. He stressed trusting your operator, doing your research on their background. He even suggested maybe newer operators are fine for less complex issues. But for deeper stuff, experience is key.
Okay. And limitations. Are there problems it just can't fix?
Interestingly, Grifasi seemed to think there are very few inherent limitations in terms of the types of problems that can be addressed.
Really? Even complex stuff?
Apparently. He even mentioned that things like communication barriers, like if a client isn't really listening or engaging, can often be overcome using support operators.
Wow. So his view is pretty optimistic about its broad applicability, provided you have a competent practitioner.
That's the impression I got. Low risk with the right person and potentially very wide-ranging benefit.
Well, that covers a lot of ground from that Q&A.
It certainly does. So there you have it. You've just done a deep dive with us into this really insightful Q&A with Calogero Grifasi. Thanks for exploring all these ideas with us.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. And for you, the learner, maybe thinking about this, a couple of key things to pull out might be that strong emphasis on your inherent power being the engine for change.
Right.
And also the potential for, well, pretty rapid transformation by understanding and working with your own subconscious mind.
Definitely. So maybe a final thought to leave you with, building on that. Considering this focus on personal power and self-directed change, what specific area of your life feels most ready for its own deep dive within yourself?
Yeah, something to mull over.
Worth reflecting on. And remember, this deep dive is just a snapshot, right?
Absolutely. It's just a glimpse. If this sparked your interest, we definitely encourage you to check out Calogero Grifasi's YouTube channel and his website for, the full picture.
Lots more there to explore. We're already looking forward to our next deep dive. Until then.
Keep exploring the depths.